汇集天下大事，聚焦华人热点。西雅图中文电台网络电视。
Among American historians of how the United States lost China. But about history, Putnam said this: history is the unfolding of miscalculations. So germane to this evening's program, with the increasingly and extremely high stakes of U.S.-China relations, neither country can afford miscalculations. We are privileged this evening to hear the perspective of Ambassador Carla Hills, who led the negotiations of the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, and the GATT, General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. And after her keynote, she and Ambassador Gary Locke, a native son of Washington State and his city, will further the conversation about their views on the future of bilateral trade relations. We also appreciate that representatives from the Washington State and city governments, as well as the People's Republic of China Consulate General's Office in San Francisco, will share their views on this timely topic. We will then honor an individual with the Sidney Rittenberg Award, given in recognition of unique leadership for the advancement of U.S.-China relations. We will then hear about the University of Washington's Innovation and Investment Collaboration with Tsinghua University in China. Now, following the footsteps of Chairman Andy Wilson, I'd like to recognize my predecessor, Christy Hines, who was the President and Executive Director of the Council from 2013 to 2016. So, Christy, if you are here, you can come up. Very
I think we should think like entrepreneurs, like great entrepreneurs, and envision the world that we want to live in, and then work hard to make it possible. So, I'd like to live in a world where the U.S. and China, the best minds from America and China, cure cancer and restore the environment and play beautiful symphonies together. And I think the Council history has proven that this is possible. And so I would like to encourage you to remain steadfast. Washington State has been a very prominent leader in this mission of international engagement. And I think it's a good time to continue that resolve. So thank you everyone for this honor, and I look forward to working with you all to carry this forward. Thank you.
The mayor says his regrets for not being able to attend this evening, but he wanted me to share a couple of things. When the mayor went to China last year in May, it was part of a delegation of leaders from Washington State, including the China Relations Council, the Trade Development Alliance, and the SL Chamber, and included elected officials from Pierce and Snohomish County. It was the mayor's first trip in his official capacity to Asia, and he was very intentional that his first trip to Asia would be to China. Understanding not just the economic rationale for making that visit, but understanding, frankly, the deep history of Seattle and the Chinese community, the Chinese American community, and the Chinese government's relationship with Washington State beginning in the late 70s, on how important Seattle was to China to send that signal. And so I think it's a testament to, frankly, the work of this organization historically that imprinted in his mind. We have to make sure that we solidify those ties between the city of Seattle and the folks in China. The trip in last May was, and by all accounts, was a successful one. And I want to personally thank, and the mayor would, if he was here, he would personally thank Christy Hine and Jim Young and the rest of the China Relations Council for helping not just organize this trip, but being really thoughtful, very intentional about why Hong Kong, and why Shenzhen, and why Hangzhou. Why did those cities make sense for the city mayor of Seattle to go visit? Because those cities mirror Seattle in so many ways, because they're forward-thinking, they're innovative, and they're thinking about businesses and innovations that are going to transcend and do the things that Christy mentioned around curing cancer and breaking through.
In China is critically important. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to go over the statistics right here that I have here, and I think you all know them. But Washington, China is Washington State's biggest trading partner, and Washington State is during various years the biggest trading partner for China amongst U.S. states. And we have this unique and special relationship, as reiterated by President Xi Jinping's visit 18 months ago. What I do want to talk about just a little bit tonight is the uncertain trade policy environment that we all now inhabit. We all here in this room understand that trade is essential for international stability and for the international economy, and of course our domestic economy. According to the World Bank, in the last 26 years, 1 billion people have been pulled out of poverty in the world. And that wouldn't have happened were it not for liberalization of trade policies around the world. But we also have to acknowledge that some people are adversely impacted by trade. Now, I think the perception is that more people are adversely impacted than actually are. That's in part because a lot of people who have their job because of trade don't know that. And a lot of people anybody who's lost their job because of trade generally know that. But there are a whole lot of people who believe they've lost their job, or believe they know somebody who lost their job due to trade, when it's usually automation or a new disruptive competitive technology, or just bad business decisions by business leaders. And so that sort of reality creates a challenging political environment that is now made worse by the income inequality that we're dealing with and the stagnant wages. And that can then manifest itself in the form of reactionary and risky policy. So advocates of trade must articulate a compelling pro-trade narrative and be out there in the public telling that narrative, to provide space for elected officials to help advance and advocate for trade. That's why organizations like the Washington State China's Relations Council so critical at this time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to be invited to today's event. On behalf of the Chinese Consulate General in San Francisco, I would like to extend my congratulations to the WSCRC and express my gratitude for its efforts to promote the China-U.S. relationship. 接下来呢，我想借这个机会和大家分享一下，中美经贸，包括中国和这个华盛顿州在贸易和投资领域的一些数据。我想通过这些数据呢，大家会一个是了解中国和美国经贸目前的一些现状，特别是华盛顿州双向投资，包括双向贸易，目前通过数据来说话，大家在这个数据里边呢，找到一些信息，就是中美经贸关系会越来越密切。当然，这里边也离不开大家的贡献。我想借这个机会呢，和大家分享一些数据。In the past 60 years, economic relations between our two countries are developing quickly. in 2013, bilateral trade reached $519 billion US, 207 times of the volume in 1979. China has become the US biggest trade partner, the third biggest export destination, and the largest origin of imports. In 2017, Chinese companies' direct investment in the USA increased 132% to $19.5 billion. At the same time, US companies
Chinese as well as the US because he spoke Mandarin. He was an expert on Chinese history. In fact, the Chinese had published his doctoral thesis. I don't think they checked it. He was well known to the Chinese. He was a fellow that made this council really good off to the right start. He went on for bigger and better things. He also ran the Washington Council on International Trade. And he went to Washington, D.C., the U.S. China Business Council. He became very famous. But he's still just a local guy. He now lives in Port Townsend. He consults very broadly in China and here. He runs the China programs for President Carter. He writes profusely, and his writing makes all kinds of sense.
Washington. This is true of the entire Seattle region. It has really become a global hub for innovation. And it's home to numerous corporates and NGOs, many tech giants, a more and more robust startup economy, and of course large and medium-sized organizations. And as was mentioned, the number of cranes is a record, I believe, for any city in the US. And that's a testament to not just the growth, but the excitement around innovation and entrepreneurship in the city of Seattle. And I believe the Seattle region is poised for much larger global opportunities as well, to get the best organizations, the best talent, the best industries, students, faculty, entrepreneurs, and governments, and peoples in general together to address what has become some of the most pressing global challenges. And towards that goal, we've created a new program which I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about, which is the Global Innovation Exchange, or GIX, to capitalize on this momentum in the region. So why GIX? Often when we think of innovation, we think of things like technology, we think of computing power, the cloud, mobile devices, machine learning, AI. These things are very important and they're also very critical in this region. But 21st century innovation requires not only that, but requires human needs around empathy, around compassion, around understanding different mindsets and cultural awareness. So we envision this new program, GIX, as a place where all of this is going to be brought together, from technology, from business skills, policy, and the rigor associated with these skills, but connected to things like design and empathy and human scale understanding to foster the kind of innovation and progress that we really need today and will truly benefit humankind. So this has been made possible by a truly momentous partnership between the University of Washington and Tsinghua University in China to create a new
taking the time to come here at the invitation of Nelson Dahl, one of the board members of Washington State China Relations Council. But Ambassador Hills had to get out here early to avoid the snowstorm on the East Coast, and she was told that she was notified by United Airlines, I think on Sunday, that they were going to have major disruptions, and so she caught an early flight connecting flight to Seattle, but the pilot didn't make it on the second trip, and so she got stranded and arrived in Los Angeles 4:30 in the morning on Monday and was able to get here last night. So thank you very much, Colonel Hills, for that Herculean effort. Served as our U.S. Trade Representative under President George H.W. Bush in his second term. Before that, she actually served in the Ford administration as Secretary of Housing, Urban Development, becoming only the third woman ever to serve in a presidential cabinet. And she has such a distinguished career. She led the U.S. negotiations in the Uruguay round of multilateral talks as U.S. Trade Representative, and of course she concluded the NAFTA trade agreement, the North American Free Trade Agreement. She has her own consulting firm with many individuals, talented individuals with expertise in a variety of different countries around the world. She's traveling constantly, whether it's to Russia, to India, to Asia. But at the same time, she finds time to co-chair the Council on Foreign Relations. And of course, she is the chair of the National Committee on U.S.-China Relations. She's a very distinguished lawyer, having authored textbooks on antitrust, graduated from Stanford University, attended Oxford University, and graduated with a law degree from Yale. And given her work and the esteem that she is held by people around the world, Mexico, in the year 2000, awarded her the highest honor given by the Mexican government to a non-citizen of Mexico. Her vision and her perseverance in bringing to fruition multilateral trade agreements benefited the United States and in many ways benefited people all around the world, because we know of the benefits of trade and what it has done to lift so many millions of people out of poverty. But she has also helped shape the new trade norm that has emerged in the post-Cold War economic order of the world. In these uncertain political, economic times in the United States, indeed in Europe, and of course in Asia, her counsel and her leadership, her perspectives, are more important than ever before. So it's with great esteem and honor.
His good ideas. So I'm pleased to be here, and goodness sakes, I ran away from the snow and I made it. But I don't have to tell this group how important a strong collaborative relationship is with China. It affects our domestic prosperity and security, but also globally. I think everyone in this room knows that U.S. and China must work together if we're going to deal effectively with today's challenges. And that runs from North Korea's nuclear threat to the South China Sea, to the Paris Climate Agreement. And I could just go on, but we don't have time. But building habits of cooperation in the economic and trade area will strengthen our bilateral relationship and help us deal more effectively, not only with these challenges, but new challenges as they arise. In so doing, we will enhance the well-being of our populations, both China and America, and also contribute to the stability and prosperity of people around the world. I have to confess that strategic mistrust has grown in the last couple of years. Increasingly, you hear the question posed, can the two largest economies with the two largest militaries collaborate